Hey there, Grateful Gang. It's Lauren here from Gratefully Living the Chronic Life. We are on episode 13 already. It's July 2nd, 2020. Thank you for joining us. For anybody that joins in, just give us a quick hello and I can put it on the screen for us. What we do, if you've never been here before, is every week we meet here on Thursday nights, my time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we talk about anything relating to living chronic pain, illness, living with a chronic condition. And there are so many different topics and so many different ways we look at each topic too. This week's topic is on fear. Last week's topic was on courage. So you would think, well, they're kind of the same, aren't they? I don't think so. That's why I wanted to do it this week. So I see some comments coming in. That's great. How is everybody? I hope your week was good and that your blessings outweighed your pain and that your pain was low. I know with the weather changing drastically in many parts of the country, the world, that can also affect our chronic pain and illness, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So seasonal changes are definitely something that we deal with among many other things. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, but let's see who we've got here so far. We have, there's me. We don't need to hear from me. Got Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Glad you're here with us. We've got Gail Turpin. Hey there, Gail. Thanks for being here. And Linda Canalicchio found her way here. Glad you could. Thanks for joining us. And so far, everybody's got, we've got also Becky Martin. Hello, Becky. And we've got Arlene. Hello, AOG friends. I missed you and our contact last week. I missed you too, my friend, although I got some nice happy mail from you, which I'm going to talk about happy mail in a couple of minutes. And we've got Pamela Creighton. Hi, glad you're on here. And we've got Jill Cook. Hey, Jill Cook, glad you could be here. We've got a good crowd so far. Those of you who don't want to say hi and just listen today, this is kind of like if you've never been here, we do kind of like a town hall type discussion. So anybody that wants to say any ideas or tips or anything that comes to your mind, they can log in and we put it on the screen. So it's like a give and take production, which is what we want. So we want everybody to feel comfortable doing that. I think I got Jill Cook. I did. Pamela, welcome. Karen Goldberg. Hey, Karen. Glad you could join us. Linda Edwards says, hi, everybody. Hi, Linda. And we've got somebody whose name I don't know, Facebook user, but hi there. If you read the post and you don't want your name to be Facebook user, the original post that you logged in with will tell you how you can go about doing that. But thank you for joining us, everybody. So a couple of announcements from the group. First of all, before Jen Leos steals my thunder, because she does every week. Let's see. My shirt today is one from a couple of years ago. It's great. Gratitude is the new black. A take on, I guess, orange is the new black, or people just saying whatever's the new black. I got this t-shirt. Let's take this off for a minute. I got this t-shirt a couple of years ago. I don't remember from where. I think I may remember my friend Joanne may have given it to me. Joanne might be listening. If it was you, Joanne, thank you. It's cute. I wear it to like bed and working out and stuff. I don't wear it that often though, so I was excited to show it to you guys. Obviously, it's not something that you wear all year round. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got, I think, some more comments. Lindell Canalicchio says, hi there, Grateful Gang. And hey, where did everybody go? Everybody's still here. Everybody's still here. They're just listening and waiting for things to get started with our topic. But hey, if you've got anything you want to shout out there, Linda, go for it. But everybody's still here. We've got, at the moment, we've got 15 live users, so they're all still here. And for those of you that don't tune in with us live, I'm always talking about the live listeners. You are just as important. This is recorded every single week. And although you can't contribute live, to the discussion, it's a great thing to watch after it's aired, because I'm hearing so much good feedback on the topics that we talk about, and things that I know I learn every week. I get off the broadcast and I'm just like, I never thought about that way before. And that's been pretty much every episode. So that's it's just terrific. I love these episodes. I'm glad you guys seem to also. Margaret DeCarica Morris, hey there. Glad you could join us, Margaret. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. So I always forget the announcements. I say I'm going to do the announcements and then I forget them. Regarding the Happy Mail, thank you to Deborah and Arlene and Linda Edwards for getting us all started off with the Happy Mail. If you don't know what Happy Mail is or what I'm talking about, you can look at our what are they called? Announcements at the top of the page. If you go back a couple of announcements, it talks about it. But what it is basically is those of us that want to participate is getting each other's addresses and sending postcards, letters, cards, whatever, just to make somebody's day. And we're going to make this an ongoing thing. For this month, we have enough signups, but we'll do it again next month. But for those of you that have signed up, and if you've already done yours and you would like more addresses, please talk to Linda Edwards or Arlene or Deborah that can help you with more addresses. Sometimes, you ask for one and maybe you want 4 more. Hey, we've got the addresses, and I'm sure, the more that we get. I got 3 myself this week. And I'm thrilled about them. Thank you to those who sent them to me. Some very, very clever things that are going out. It does not have to be anything special. Just a hi, I'm thinking about you. My name is whatever, whatever you want. It's just exactly what it's called. Happy Mail. Happy from us because it helps us, and happy for the person, obviously, who gets it. So again, you can ask for more addresses if you've already signed up. If it's something you want to do next month, we will certainly announce the additional signups for that at a later date. So there's that. These came in this week. Hang on, let me turn this off. Send a picture. This is very exciting. Ta-da! AOG on a mask, nice and soft, triple ply, washable. Thanks to those of you who ordered them. You should have gotten them by now. Jen Leos, I think she was the one that said her tracking was off. But those of you that were able, why are my glasses so dirty? Ugh, usually I record or I clean them before broadcast, and I forgot this week. And they're kind of yucky. Excuse me for a moment. It's a little better. Those of you who ordered directly from Custom Ink, you should have gotten them. If you're international and you ordered through me, you have not gotten them yet. They will be going in the mail early next week, and I'll let you know how much shipping was and all of that. And for the few of you that didn't make the order in time and ordered domestically through me, yours will go out early next week as well. So thank you. It's exciting. I wore this all day to my mom's birthday dinner and last weekend at my parents' house, and I'll be wearing it this weekend at my parents' house. Social distancing for the 4th of July. And as miserable as these things can be, and they can, I don't know how our medical workers can wear them, or if they have more comfortable ones. They can be really uncomfortable, but I've worn the paper ones, and this is just so much more soft. I hope that you guys who ordered them are really enjoying them. And if you didn't get a chance to order and would like to, is that possible? I don't know. Maybe I'll check on it. I'll write it down to check on it. I should have researched that before I said something. I would think so, but I don't know. I will check on it because they really are the bomb. I may want more myself. So if you haven't gotten your mask yet and you're domestic and you ordered it, directly through them, I'd give it another day or two, and then you can call me or call them directly. They did have a tracking number with each order. I know this was a worry for many of you last week. I mentioned breaking my jar of unicorn snot which is the glitter stuff that I put on my face. I'm happy to report that not only did I get a new jar with pink, it came with a discount unicorn snot chapstick, which makes my lips nice and glittery. It's got some kind of flavor to it too. So being the oldest person over the age of like 5 that orders this stuff, it's great. Unicorn snot. I see some comments going on here. Hang on just a second, guys. Let me see. Do I have every announcement? Oh, the journaling challenge for the week. I was kind of under the weather the past couple days, so I didn't put it up. I still will. But if you're in the main group and you're not a member of our journaling club, our journaling challenge for the month, this month is, learning to know yourself. I think that's what it is. Deborah will contact me about that. It is. It's learning to, or knowing yourself better, something like that. It's a month long of different journaling prompts to help us learn about ourselves better. But thank you, Deborah, for coming up with this awesome challenge. It is awesome. I will put up the reminder in the main group, but you can join the journaling challenge anytime you want. Participation in our challenges, if you want to call them challenges, is completely optional. So you can join and just see what everybody else writes. But there's always something to learn, and always something good to think about yourself if you don't want to contribute, like I said. So thank you, Deborah, on that as well. And I think that's it. Got my t-shirt. Again, for those of you joining us late, we're here every Thursday at this time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are more than welcome to post a question, comment, thought, a memory, anything that helps with the discussion. We are kind of off our typical AOG rules here on Thursday night, so we welcome anything. So let us see again. Let me go back to, where am I? There's me. Okay, let's go back to some comments before we get started on the comments, or on the topic rather. Oh, we got Julia here. Hi there, Julia. Glad you could join us. Heidi says, I meant to order but never did. Oh, the masks? Some of the paper masks irritate my skin. I do have a couple of cloth masks. Yeah, I thought I remembered that you said you weren't going to order. Does that mean you do want to order, or are you just saying you didn't order? Let me know. I don't know for sure if you can, like I said, but I can always check. I mean, I'm sure they must still have the, this gorgeousness available, this gorgeous logo that Amy and I designed a couple of years ago. I will certainly try, because they're a nice thing. They're certainly a nice thing to have. I'm just starting to kind of venture out a little bit on my own, very carefully, where I've had to wear a mask, and I've been very grateful to have it, as well as to show off our glorious group. We've got Lindell here today. Hey there, Lindell. Glad you could join us. And oh, Diane says, finally, could not get on. I got my masks. I'm glad. I'm glad you got your masks. Arlene says, I will be doing bedazzling mine when I get my masks from you. You got it, sister. You did want to order. Okay, Heidi. Well, I will check on it. If not, I'll see if I have any extra. I'm not sure if I do, but I will check to see. I bet there's others who wanted to order also. Okay, so let's get started with the topic tonight. Tonight's topic is fear, which seems it's such an all-encompassing topic, isn't it? I mean, fear, especially when it relates to chronic pain, they kind of go one and the same, don't they? And there's so much different fear that we have to deal with. And, it was kind of hard to make an outline, because I just knew that between all of our comments, they were going to kind of go all over the place. So it's hard to outline. But where does fear fit into chronic pain? First, before we start off with that, I looked up the definition of fear, just because I was curious. And according to the definition I found, which was like Wikipedia or something. It says, fear is a natural, powerful, and primitive emotion. It alerts us to danger and the threat of harm, whether that danger is physical or psychological. Sometimes fear stems from real threats, but it can also originate from imagined dangers. And some of the research that I did today talked about just that. You know, we can not have imaginary fears, but our fears can kind of snowball. It can start with maybe an incident that happened when maybe the weather was a certain way or something like that. And as it spins in our head, it gets more and more scary to us. And the more fear that we have, all the experts stuff that I was reading, the more fear we have, it's been shown that the more pain we have. That is in no way saying that our pain is in our heads. The pain starts first. And depending on how much fear we take inside, that will also make our pain even larger, if that makes any sense. We'll get more into it. I want to hear what you guys have to say so far. I mean, there's going to be so much to talk about, I know. But let me put up this question first. What kinds of things do we fear when living with chronic pain? I'm going to keep it like that and just keep it open for a couple minutes because I really want to hear everybody's comments on this. What kinds of things do we fear when living with chronic pain? Pain would be the obvious, right? Pain would be the obvious. And I think that our fears rather change the longer we have the pain, right? So maybe we start off with an acute illness, an injury, an illness, something of the sort, and it hurts us. And people with acute pain, a lot of the times look forward to eventually getting better and moving on. When the pain becomes chronic and you start living with it every day, that's when things on the fear side get, I want to say interesting, sounds like a happy word, get more troublesome. Let me see what we have to say so far. What kinds of things do we fear when living with chronic pain? Oh, first we've got Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Glad you could be here. Lindell says fear and anxiety amplifies pain. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it's hard to know where one starts and where the other begins, isn't it? You know, we talked about courage last week, and we were talking about courage and dealing with our fears. And I was looking at it, reducing it a little bit further. I'm like, well, why don't we just talk about fears this week? Because that's what we're coping with, isn't it? We cope with our fears. We've got a lot going on here, so let's get to them. What do we have to fear with chronic pain and illness? Isolation, absolutely, and judgment. Absolutely, on both of those, Becky. Thank you. We can often get isolated from friends and family for a lot of reasons. And judgment, same with friends or family or ourselves, right? We judge ourselves, and we've gotten to know that the last many weeks with our different topics. Judging ourselves and what we should be doing instead of what we're capable of doing is a really leads to resentment. And same with our friends and family, isolation and judgment. Thank you, Becky. Those are great. This Facebook user says the unknown, not knowing. That's a really, really solid one. When your pain becomes chronic, we don't know what's to come. We don't know, right? What things are going to be like in a month, in a week, in a month, in a year. When we get older, we don't know what our life is going to look like, what the pain is going to look like, what kind of help we're going to need. Terrifying, isn't it? And it's easy for people to say, you know, just have a positive outlook and all that. And look, I'm the one saying this. I think gratitude can be the single leading what's the word? Vaccine. A vaccine of sorts for pain and for fear. But it's not so easy, is it? Let's see what else we've got. New comments. We've got, oh, would you look at that? Who's calling? Better not be Amy again. No, it is not. Name unavailable this time.
Name unavailable.
Thank God. We don't need any more of that drama. Okay.
Name unavailable.
Oh, we've got some good ones here. Let me just get back to comments.
Name.
Heidi Presser says, I fear getting coronavirus since I have asthma. It's a very, sorry about the phone. That's a very, very valid fear for you with your asthma, for any of us who might be high risk, which could be all of us, you know, whatever it is that we struggle with for our chronic illness. It could be an autoimmune something. It could be heart. It could be a combination of a lot of different things. We can all be at risk for getting this virus and everything. And, you know, lately has been talking about things possibly getting worse in the fall. So that is a definite valid fear. Thank you, Heidi. Deborah says, I fear it getting worse. I hear you from my friend. I think that's I know for me, that's a valid fear. I fear it getting worse too. That's why I love using AOG, because I feel like with AOG, in many, many different ways that I wanted to talk about, it helps me on the, you know, talking to people front. It helps me with my gratitude. Antidote, that's the word I was looking for earlier, not vaccine. Gratitude, I think, is the leading antidote to fear. And they say that gratitude and fear cannot coexist. I've heard that quote quite a few times, and I always have to think about it. I'm not sure I know that that's positively true, but you guys think about it. Gratitude is the antidote to fear, and gratitude and fear cannot coexist. Think about that and comment on that if you feel like it. Thanks, Deborah, for a fear of getting worse. Me too. Becky Martin, isolation, for sure. For sure. So we need to stick together, right, sisters and brothers, I should say. Linda Kanaliki, losing my independence. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot lately too. That's a really good one to bring up. Losing your independence. You know, I think I talked maybe last week about losing my ability to drive, and that's a very valid possibility for me. Not yet, but talking to doctors about that, and you know, having this go around in my head. Amy was one of those. Amy could not drive, and I'm sure a lot of you are the same. That's a lot of independence that you lose when you are no longer able to drive. So I thought about that a lot, and you know, going to Flush the Format, you guys have helped me out a lot with that fear, and just every day learning how you guys learn to deal with losing different abilities has been helpful. So thank you, Linda. That's for sure. Diana says, getting worse, losing more control, losing people. Yeah, we all seem to have the same fears. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true, Margaret. Thank you. Getting worse, losing more control, and losing people. Now, let me turn off my silly name here. Silly name. I want to see the questions better. All right, what do we have here? We have Pamela says, me too. Not sure what that is, losing your independence, maybe, Pamela? Sorry, I wasn't more on the ball with getting you right away. Julia says, stress, anxiety, and fear can make the pain become stronger. Yes, I found that. I've learned that to be true over the years, and I found that in my my research today on pain and fear. It's like this never-ending vicious cycle, because we get fearful because we have pain, right? And so then we protect ourselves, get hypervigilant and overprotective of ourselves, and that can actually cause us more pain. You know, the tension that we can get in our neck and our back, our whole body, we tense up, you know, our jaw, gritting our teeth. We don't realize we're doing it often, but these are the things that we do that can actually cause us more pain. Glendale says, when the pain worsens, I fear it will not subside. I hear you. And that's super scary, isn't it? When we get into, often we can get into like the dark hole, like, down the rabbit hole of fear, isolation, depression, all these things can often go together. And the idea of getting out of it when we're in that dark hole can be terrifying. I know I was in it, many years ago, I was in it. And if I let things last too long, I can still get into it where the, fear of going out. I don't know if all of you or many of you are feeling that with the coronavirus, but this fear of going out now, when we've been told to stay in for a while, and we might still be high, the word, high risk with the coronavirus. Maybe you're not going out yet. Maybe you're dipping your toe into the water like I am. Either way, it's all scary, isn't it? And, at some point you need to kind of let that guard down a little bit. Do you need to? Maybe you don't need to. I'm saying for me, at some point I need to let that guard go down, because I don't want the pain to make me hostage. I don't want the fear to make me hostage. And it does. Fear can turn me hostage. My pain then holds me hostage. And I don't want that. I let that happen. I'm here in this group talking to you guys in an enormous amount of gratitude, because I want to live life the happiest way I can, despite living with the pain. I don't want to live just to exist with pain, or even just get by with pain, or just survive with pain. I'd like to survive and thrive a little bit if I can. And that's what we work on here in AOG, and why I'm glad to have you all. Let's see what more comments we've got. This isn't the easiest thing to navigate. I'll blame instead of my technological faults, I'll blame the StreamYard. Sorry, StreamYard, you're fantastic. Okay, we've got Gail. Sometimes it can be as small as moving a certain way and getting terrible pain. You're right, Gail. You're really right. And some of the stuff I was looking at. So say you've got a pain, like you're talking about, Gail. Like say you've had a pain for a while, and we get really good at being able to navigate where we don't make that pain flare anymore. We know which way to, whatever the pain is, walk, chew, whatever it is, we know what to do to hopefully not exacerbate that pain, right? And so maybe we don't get it anymore. What happens if we go that extra mile and decide, hey, I'll try a little bit more, and then it comes again? We're not going to be letting down our guard on that pain anytime soon, are we? And we can get really stuck in that. So there's that fine line too. Like, where do we've talked about, baby steps. How do we go about baby steps and trying to see if these things are still a problem for us, versus really being overprotective? Actually, it's between being protective of our pain and being hyper protective of our pain, where it's keeping us from doing things. I guess that's the question. I don't know the answer to it. I bet you guys do though, so I want to hear it all. Julia says, fear that we can't do something due to the pain. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Amy was fearful of that. For those of you that may not have known Amy was our co-admin with me of the group here for a couple of years. And she was also my bestest friend in the entire world. And unfortunately, she passed away in March. And we all miss her terribly. She and I and her granddaughter, Anna, spent just about every day together. We were like the dynamic duo. And Amy needed a heart transplant, and she loved to go out on adventures because she knew her health was in dire straits. She knew that she could still do things, but each day things were taken away from her. And so she also knew that there was a good chance that she would not make it much longer. So we did adventures just about every day, despite me being in chronic pain also. So she was really good. I wrote an article about it right around after the time she passed away, about living your life as if you're dying. And Amy knew how to live her life like she was dying. I guess my point is, where do we draw that line to push ourselves a little bit so we can live as if we're still living, and keeping ourselves holed up at home, or, keeping ourselves from experiencing life the way we should? I don't know. But that is a very valid fear, Julia. Fear that we can't do something because our abilities can be taken away at any time. Margaret says, I fear losing my memory. I'm not scared of pain, but several of my illnesses affect my memory. Me too, my friend. Me too. That right now, that is my biggest fear because it's happening. And I'm lucky to have you guys and good friends who don't make me feel self-conscious or badly about it. I'm doing things that I'm hoping will prevent it from getting further. But I mean, there's only so much you have control of, right? So yeah, that's a scary thing, a really scary thing to think of, losing Margaret. Thank you for posting that, because I am currently in that too. And it's a bit terrifying. So if anybody has tips on that one, I would love to hear it, as I'm sure Margaret would as well. We've got Facebook user here that says, fear of making plans. You won't feel up to it and you may have to cancel. So I wait until the last minute. People don't understand why I plan last minute. Thank you, Facebook user. I would love to know who you are, but that is a really good, really good comment and valid fear, I think, too, that many of us have talked about before, the fear of making plans. Because, like our group does every morning, we do our daily intentions, what we intend to do for the day. And that can always start out, it can start out a number of ways. It can be you're waking up in pain and you just don't feel like you can do all that much. But then maybe as the day goes on, you're stretched out a little bit more. Maybe you can intend to do a little bit more. Or you can have a lot of energy. Like I tend to, I can't move much in the morning, but I do have energy. So when I'm writing my to-do list, I do tend to write more than I can actually do. More for memory's standpoint than me actually thinking I'm going to do all these things in a given day. But that's absolutely true. And I like to make plans with friends and family. I haven't had to worry much about it these past couple of months, which has been good. But lots of Zoom meetings, so that's been great. Having to cancel plans with people, especially people who don't understand what you live with, is definitely a fear that we all have to deal with at one point or another. And they can make you feel not so good about it. You can either wait until the last minute and see if you're able to do it, or you can just say no and then, feel like a flake. And then if you happen to be feeling good at that time, you feel like you're missing out. That's a really valid fear. People don't understand why I plan last minute. I do. And I bet there's a lot of other hands being raised right now. Thank you for sharing. Glendale says, indeed, fear of unknown can be crippling. I know it. So how do you guys deal with that? For me, the intentions in the morning helps with that a lot. Gratitude and hope, boy, those are the two things that help me with fear so much. Let's see, we've got lots of comments here. Fear, indeed. Fear of known, yes, I got that. Fear of unknown can be crippling. Arlene says, fear and I have an agreement. When I feel fear, I give it a moment and then I treat it like a pimple on my forehead. I know it's there, but choose to ignore it when it's really ugly. That's great. I'm thinking of a pimple on your forehead. That's good. You do have to acknowledge the fear. Arlene brings up a good point. We we can ignore it. And what I was reading, they say that we have different ways of dealing with it. Most people, we ignore it, we deny that it's there, we try to conceal it. And we can do all this to a point. I do it. I'm sure you all do it to some point, but at some point you need to get it out, whether that's attending a Flush the Format, coming here on Thursday nights and getting it out. It's not healthy to just keep your fears all in. Flush the Formats on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I can't promote it enough. I bring out my fears there every week. I wasn't able to go this week, but every time I'm fearful about a test, something new going on for me, grief over losing a good friend or something like that. Flush the Format and you guys are the best. We're lucky to have this community of like-minded individuals that does understand, and you don't get judged. It's a judgment-free, safe place, as Linda Edwards brought up to me a couple of weeks ago, and I forget how she worded it exactly, but it was judgment-free and safe, and I love that. Excuse me one second. Oh, I think I made a song. Nope, not yet. But I will. I vow to make a song with my kombucha. So Arlene has an agreement. I love that agreement. If anybody else has one, tell me what it is. Pamela says, I fear that autoimmune medications stop working and running out of options. I'm on the 4th in 7 years. That's an excellent point, Pamela. And one I actually forgot about myself. But many of us are on medications of some sort. And if you have an autoimmune disorder, or, maybe you've been sick a long time, I've been sick for 20 years. You do get, sometimes with your meds, you get, can stop working after a period of time. I know one of my meds does. So then what happens? Do you run out of options? That can be a scary thought for sure. Running out of options. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody else has anything to add to that, it's a really valid thing. Running out of options is a scary thing for sure. Thank you, Pamela, for bringing that up. That's a big one for me. I'm assuming you mean running out of options. And I would say that's a big one for me too. Thank you. Gratitude does help chase away fears. It absolutely does. And how does it do that? I should put that up as our next question. How does gratitude help with our fears? Extra credit question. I was reading this article. I show this book just about every week by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's the man who brought mindfulness meditation here to the United States. He runs in Massachusetts at, I think, Mass General Hospital, a program called the Stress Health Management Clinic. Hang on. Mindfulness-based stress reduction program at UMass. A lot of great stuff comes from him. In fact, I have a little meditation I want to do with you guys because he talks a lot, obviously, about mindfulness. I learned about him when I was at Silver Hill through Dr. Singer, Bruce Singer. I had never heard of him before, but he talks a lot about using mindfulness in order to deal with our fears and chronic pain. And the great quote I found of his was, if we are honest with ourselves, most of us will have to admit that we live out our lives on an ocean of fear, much of the time trying to avoid recognizing that fact. I went, bam, bam. That was like, that really, really hit me, that quote. I'm going to read it one more time. If we are honest with ourselves, most of us will have to admit that we live out our lives on an ocean of fear, much of the time trying to avoid recognizing that fact. Jon Kabat-Zinn said that, and we tried to avoid recognizing that fact by the denial, the ignoring it and concealing it. Arlene says, I fear that I will not be enough and that I will not have made a difference in this world before my time is up. Pretty sure you know what I'm going to tell you right now, but I know it's easier hearing it from somebody else than yourself because you don't believe it. You already are enough. The friendship you've given me just the past couple of months, and I'm only one person. I know the friendship you give to a lot of people. My friend, you are already enough. The help that you give to others, the help that you have brought to AOG already. All right, people are commenting. Here we go. Arlene, you are enough. Yes, you are. But I understand what you're saying, Arlene. I get that feeling too. I'm glad I have AOG. I think if without it, I would feel like I wasn't contributing, which would be completely wrong, by the way. I think in the beginning I felt like that, but I contribute in my own way in a lot of ways. I don't need to be running a group. So please don't accept that as you need to be doing something big and grand like this. I worried about not being enough because I was an overachiever, as I've mentioned in previous weeks. How will somebody with limited abilities be enough? That's what I thought. And then as we've talked about the last 2 weeks, especially, we are. See, Arlene, when you go on vacation, you miss out on these things. Arlene's back. She says, when I have a blue day, I fear that I will go back into that dark hole with my legs hanging over the edge of losing myself. I love that quote of yours that I think I've heard you say that before. And it's absolutely beautiful. My dark hole with my legs hanging over the edge of losing myself. God, is that good? That is so good. Because I find it so true. I can really relate to that. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you very much. Facebook user, Jill Cook, says, fear of the toll this takes on my husband, fear of the new or of changes, fear medications will stop working or be discontinued. All very valid, Jill, thank you. Fear of the toll this takes on my husband. I can relate to that one too. If you guys have, significant others, spouses, children that might be caring for you, friends, we all fear, I think, that we can be taking advantage. And I think those of us that do require care start to rethink at times, like, do I really need help with this? Because it can start to get easy, can't it? I'm going to use my handicap placard for my car as an example. And I think I've used this before, but you have to deal with my repeating things. I have memory loss, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. When a couple of years ago, it was at a Chronic Pain Anonymous meeting that somebody was talking about their handicap placard for their car. And when I told them I didn't have one, they seemed surprised, and they're like, just go to your doctor, your rheumatologist, and get one. And I just didn't feel like I was, worthy of having one. And he asked me, well, what constitutes having, a handicap sticker for your car? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I envisioned having to be in a wheelchair, somebody that really just couldn't get around. But the thing is, like, I have needed wheelchairs before. I have needed walkers. I have needed chairs. I don't always. Does that make me any less in need of needing a handicap placard for my car? No, I realized it didn't. So I got one. And then when I first got it, again, we're going back a couple of years. When I first got it, I tended to not use it hardly at all, only when I really, really needed it. Now I use it much more often for a couple of reasons. One, I deal with a lot of pain on a daily basis, as you guys do too. We should be required some perks, right? I mean, unless there's a big, big wait for handicap spots. And if I'm in some pain, I'm going to take it. But also what my point of this is that using the handicap sticker got much easier as time went on, where I would forget that it's always hanging up there. So it gets easier and easier to ask for help once we've initially done it, right? It gets easier to ask for somebody to change our linens, or, so many different examples that I can give. So do we then look back on it and say, do I really need help with that? I hope you do, but I hope you also do it in a good way and don't doubt it. Look at it logically. but don't doubt yourself, because we do need help in a variety of ways. We all come here together in AOG for help. And that is a very good thing. I'm grateful for it. Julia says, you can use your fear to point you in the direction of what is most important to you, rather than be hard on yourself for feeling fear in the first place. If you aren't afraid of doing something, it generally means you don't find it very important, or you wouldn't have that fear. That's an interesting comment. Many of you know that my daughter's an actress, and I was reading, she doesn't tend to get stage fright. She'll get it like before openings of shows, but if she's on tour or something, she doesn't get much stage fright, once she's been on stage for a long while, which I find fascinating, because I would be absolutely terrified. Hang on, let me turn this off for a minute. Where is that? Okay. What is my point of that? Okay, whoever can guess what my point of that is. Stage fright. What did Julia say? Oh, I know. If I read an article saying if you don't have at least a little bit of stage fright, it means you kind of don't care. And that wasn't necessarily going for actors who are on their 300th show. It was just, I looked up like how people cannot have, or how people can still have stage fright, I think, after a long period of time. And it said what Julia just said: if you don't have at least a tiny little bit of fear, it means it's not that important to you. It's a great, great comment. Thank you. Julie says, I found that comment online. Great. Thank you. Me too. Somewhere. Maybe it was the same place. I found this comment online. Thank you. Comment from Heidi. I can see names and pictures when you just see Facebook user. It is weird. Yes, Heidi, you can. But me on my dashboard, I cannot on StreamYard. So you guys all there, you can see everybody's name and comment. But when it streams through to StreamYard, I cannot see it. So it'll look absolutely fine to you guys, just not me. Arlene says, when I have a day when I'm not doing well and I do all my normal things that usually help me out, I fear I will never get back to being me again. Oh man, that makes me want to cry, because it's so true for me too. I'm going to read that again. When I have a day when I am not doing well and I do all my normal things that usually help me out, I fear I will never get back to being me again. So I'm assuming you meaning things like, I ate maybe things that were, good for autoimmune system the day before. I drank lots of water. I did my exercises, blah, 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 like all that stuff. I assume you're saying when you did everything right and the next day you're just feeling lousy. You just feel like you're never going to get back to normal. I assume that's what you mean. And I can totally relate to that comment too. It's scary, isn't it? Like, what if the pain that we have today, what if it's never this good again, right? We can feel that fear. But how do we deal with that fear? Tell me, people, how do we deal with that fear? Because that can be paralyzing, can't it? But what can help that? What can help that paralyzing fear of never getting better? Hope, right? HOPE. Have to come up with one of those anagram things for hope. Put that on my list of things to do. Hope, anagram. Hope, man, if we didn't have hope, we've talked about this before. I think hope may have been our very first episode, actually. If we don't have hope that tomorrow's going to get better, no matter how many bad days you've had in a row, then you may as well pack it in, right? And so that's what we give each other here in AOG. We give each other hope. Every single one of us, whether you comment, whether you read, you lurk, whatever, every single one of us gives each other hope just by being there, just by seeing our numbers of whatever it is, 5,300 people. 5,300 people joined a group for chronic pain people with gratitude where you can't really complain. That's inspiring. That gives me hope, doesn't it? Sure does. Hey, Sarah. Hello from Sara Garrison in Alabama. Hey, Sarah. I don't know if you're in one of those states down south that's where the virus is getting bad again, but blessings are with you if you are. Wish I was in Alabama right now. It sounds like fun. Glendale says, AOG warriors encourage and inspire. Fear seems smaller with you guys by my side. Grateful for AOG. Love you guys. Love you too, Glendale, for sure. Good point. Gratitude takes our mind off of our fears and illness. Becky, that's a great point in relation to gratitude and how it helps us. It takes our mind off of it, doesn't it? When we're looking at the good things in our life, we could be in a tremendous amount of pain right now. And I can be thinking, I'm so glad that Rob's upstairs. So if I need him, actually he's not upstairs. He's downstairs watching me in the other room. Hey, honey. But, if I were to pass out right now or something, I know he'd come running out. That gives me hope. The gratitude for having him helps with my fears, helps me know that, even if I have a worse tomorrow, he'll be here for me. I may start crying. I love you, honey. It can be gratitude for even small things. It doesn't have to be a big thing like that either. It can be, I've gratitude that tomorrow is Taco Tuesday. Now, tomorrow's not Taco Tuesday because it's Friday, but when Amy was in the hospital, we used to love it when it was Taco Tuesday. She wouldn't get what was on the hospital menu. I would build it for her, but we would have this whole scheme of things with extra sour cream and all that stuff. So we got excited for Taco Tuesdays. So when it was Mondays and we'd been there for a while, we would always be excited for Taco Tuesday. Yes, so gratitude can give us that hope and take away those fears that can be really difficult to get away. Here we go, Gail. Because fear and gratitude can't coexist. That's what they say. That's what they say. And I try to think, Gail, of so many examples of that. Like when I'm so fearful of something, if I were to think of like the things I'm most grateful for, would that take that fear away? If I was exactly in that moment, absolutely. Don't you think? All of you, don't you think if it's in that moment, I'm thinking about something I'm grateful for, there's no way I can be fearful in that moment because I'm grateful in that moment. What about a little longer term? What if I want to stop being afraid of something for 15 minutes, say, and that initial gratitude's kind of worn off? Tell me what you guys do, if anything, if you found a way. Or do you just keep thinking of new things to be grateful for? We had Bruce Singer here, episode like 3 or 4 a couple of months ago, and he talked about black ducks, something he calls black ducks. And along the same way we use gratitude in here, black ducks are things that you find in your life that help to keep your mind off of your pain and illness, even for a brief moment. They can be hanging out with friends. They can be hearing your favorite song on the radio, like Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond. It can be, a beautiful piece of music, a smell that brings back memories of your childhood, your mom making something. It can be, be a letter with your best friend's handwriting on it. Any little thing that can take your mind off of fear and pain. I'm going to add fear to that because I think it's kind of the same thing. All of that is gratitude that takes away, even briefly, those things for us. So those are black ducks. If you're not familiar with Bruce's work, he has a group that we have in our group links. It's called Black Duck Moments for Recovery. And a lot of our members are members of it. Highly, highly recommend that you join if you haven't joined already. Okay, Sara. Sara Garrison says, I get scared my husband will leave me due to the added demands on him caused by chronic pain and fatigue and flares from various illnesses, increase in frequency and duration. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that a lot of us have talked about fear of the future, fear of how things will get in the future. That's more than just for us being fearful of the pain itself. In fact, it may not even be for us at all. For many of us, living with the physical pain is the least of our pains, right? It can be losing abilities. And then with losing those abilities, do we worry about losing those people in our lives, losing our caregivers, losing those people that we can talk to? I mean, there's a lot involved here for us to be able to, cope with and foster and take care of. So that's why we need to stay with each other and help each other by having topics like fear and teaching each other how we come to terms with that. Sarah, thank you for your comment. It was a wonderful one. Oh, Jen Leos is here. Hi, sorry, I'm late. No problem, you're late. Glad you're here at all, my friend. Sarah is another one. Sara Garrison says, gratitude is an expression of thankfulness, which increases our faith. Fear is the opposite of faith, and both cannot exist at the same time. It's exactly what I've heard too, and that's said in a beautiful, beautiful way. I'm going to read that again, Sarah. Thank you. Gratitude is an expression of thankfulness, which increases our faith. Faith is the opposite of, or fear is the opposite of faith, and both cannot coexist, or both cannot exist at the same time. Absolutely. Way to go. Thank you for those of you that are just joining us. If you are just joining us, haven't been here from the beginning, you can watch this. It's recorded and you can watch it immediately after we finish airing. So thank you for being with us. Trust me, it's worth watching from the beginning because there's a lot of great discussion that goes on. We started with 15. We've now got 27 people live watching with us, and we open comments, we open lurkers. We are talking today about how to deal with pain while living with a chronic condition. What fear, actually, we're talking about fear. I keep saying pain, but it is really kind of one and the same, isn't it? Because once your pain turns chronic and it turns into a long thing, our pains become different. They become kind of learned in our head. If I do this, that's going to hurt me. If I do this, I know that's going to hurt me. Do I still do it? I often come up with a list, me and my list, but a pro and con list of if I do this activity, even if it's something small, if I were to go out with this group of friends at this particular time, on this particular weather day, where normally I know I would have pain, say, I would put down my pros, all the benefits I have from seeing those friends. Maybe it's been a while. Maybe I can use the socialization. I know I can use the socialization. Maybe, all those great things that come along with being with friends, talking, being a community, all those things. And then my cons. Pretty sure that the pain's going to be bad tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it might even be worse. And then I look at those lists, see the pros and cons. And even if there's only a couple cons and you've got a whole bunch of pros, sometimes those cons will outweigh the pros. But look at them carefully, because a lot of times those pros will outweigh the cons. And we look at the worst case scenario, right? Look at your worst case scenario. Write something down that you're afraid to do. Write it all down as if you're journaling, right? And then think to yourself, what is the worst case scenario if you were to do it? Right? Think about this. What is your worst case scenario? If your worst case scenario is a lot of pain, maybe you think, all right, well, when I write it down like that and I see that my worst case scenario is a lot of pain, I can deal with that because I'm used to dealing with a lot of pain, and I may have a crappy day, but man, I got to do this, right? I got to do this and push myself a little bit. I got to see these friends. I got to go out to this store that I've been wanting to go to for 4 months, So I highly recommend those two ways of dealing with it. I'd like to hear if you guys have other ways. Margaret says, gratitude helps us live in the moment, enjoy the now. There is no need to worry about the future moment, right? That moment. Absolutely. Facebook user says, fear seems less since I joined AOG. You are all. AOG has helped my fear become much less grateful for that. Well, thanks. If it's two of you or one of you, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. I never tire of hearing that. It goes for me as well. It totally goes for me. When things start to get really, really scary, I will come to the group. I will look at all of you inspirational people. I know that I am not unique in my pain. I will know that you guys have conquered some pretty tough things. If it's really, really bad, I need to talk about it. I will wait till Tuesday and Wednesday if I can and go share to flush the format, or I'll find I've made lots of friends that I private message here from the group that I know I can tell anything to. And I'm grateful for them as well because they understand and they don't judge. So thank you. Those are great points. Jen says, she's fabulous, Riley. What was I talking about, Riley? I'm sure I was. I think I was. Oh, Jen, my memory. How was I talking about Riley? I do not know. I'm sorry. I'm terrible like that with you. That's okay. You'll inform me, I'm sure. Robin Davis. Hello, beauties. Hey, Robin. Glad you could join us. I know it's a little bit late, and for those of you that join late, not a big deal at all. We're talking about how we deal with fear in the face of living with chronic conditions, because fear is a very, very common and almost inevitable thing that we deal with chronic pain and illness. I wanted to read you something else that Dr. John Kabat-Zinn also wrote underneath that quote I read earlier. He said, every once in a while, those feelings of fear will surface even in the hardiest of us. They may be about death or about being abandoned or betrayed. They may stem from previous traumas we have experienced, both big T and little t traumas, such as having been chronically disregarded and neglected, or outrightly abused, violated, or even tortured. They may arise from feeling pain, or from anticipating it, or from being alone or sick or disabled. We can fear for someone we love, that he or she may be hurt or killed. We may harbor fears of failure or fears of success, fears of letting other people down, or fears about the fate of the earth. Most of us carry such fears within us. They are always present, but they usually surface only under certain circumstances. Gee, I wonder what those circumstances would be. Could it be stress? For me, it is. For sure, my worries get much more when I have stress in my life. And as if to talk about this vicious cycle, if I'm experiencing more pain and I don't get that pain and fear out some way, if I'm not doing breathing breaths, if I'm not talking to people, I get more tense and then experience more pain. It's just the way it happens. Jen Leo says, I relate, Arlene. I fear the dark place will creep up and take hold. Yeah, that is definitely a fear that we have. And it's something that even saying one comment helps us from. It makes us more social. And I can't say it enough, being a member of a group of people that understand you, even if we're not talking about our exact chronic pain and illness, it makes you feel understood. It makes you feel not unique. We all want to be the same. When you're a kid, when you're, a tween or a teenager, you want to be the same as all your friends. Maybe that's not the case now. Maybe you've learned to become more independent. You don't want to be like everybody else, but you sure wish that you could operate physically or emotionally like the way that you see normal people be. I would argue that all people experience some kind of pain, but you know what I'm talking about. We all want to be able to operate with no pain, which isn't true or not possible, of course. But how do we do it easier? We deal with it again with AOG and gratitude, stating our intentions for the day, even if we're not able to make those intentions. They were only intentions. That's just what we intended for at the beginning of the day. No big deal. When we say our 3 things that we did well at the end of the day through the group, no matter how small they are. I took a shower today. Woohoo! I got on the air and did gratefully living the chronic life today. That's awesome. I did a little writing today. That's 3 things. Two of them pretty big things in my book. But they can be, they can be going upstairs to get something. No matter what, 3 things can help us to focus on the good things that we've done and not the one bad thing that we did and those fears that can paralyze us and take hold. Jen says gratitude, absolutely, with a purple heart for sure. Robin says what helps her is knowing that this too shall pass. Yes, my friend, I agree with you. This too shall pass. Even when we're in the worst chronic pain and we say this too shall pass, we may be thinking, no, it won't. It's not going to pass because I'm going to have this forever. But that pain that you're having at that exact moment, yes, it will. It will pass. Maybe your entire chronic condition won't pass, but that awful pain that you have at that moment, that's going to pass. It will. And then you'll be back to your regular painful self. Jen Leo says, yes, Brenda Royer. What did Brenda say? Is she one of our Facebook users? Probably. Well, thank you for Brenda Royer, for whichever one you said. Never give up hope. Absolutely, you guys. Hope is what gets us out of bed. I've said it before. I automatically make my bed every day. If I need to get back into it, I need to get back into it. But I make my bed every day as kind of a code to myself that I am done in this bed. I have hope that I will be able to function a little bit today. I put unicorn snot on my face and my lips and my body to make me feel a little sparkly on the outside, which will make me feel a little sparkly and less fearful on the inside. These are just little tips that I do. What else did I find? Mindfulness, of course, everybody recommends for helping to live with chronic pain. That's staying in the moment. Our breath breaks help with that so much. I'm going to put a link, since we're already over the hour again. I'm going to put a link to a mindfulness meditation by Jon Kabat-Zinn in the comments here as soon as I'm done, because I think it's worth you guys listening to and doing. He's a wonderful spiritual guide teacher. He's got the most relaxing voice, and I want you guys to experience it. Please do your breath breaks. You may think that they're silly, but just a couple minutes can help you so much to deal with that fear. Verbalizing, we've talked about that already. Verbalizing to our friends gives our fear so much less power. When we write it down, I already said, writing down what exactly is our fear. Write it down either in a list or just write the whole thing out and look at it with clean, fresh, maybe grateful eyes. How bad is it? What is the worst case scenario here? Is it really as bad as I thought? Because a lot of times when I write it down, when I write my lists down, I think, well, I don't have as much to do as I thought, or that's not as bad as I thought. It really helps. Yoga, of course, any exercise program that your doctor has you on. I'm certainly not going to recommend any exercise other than breathing to everybody, but I'm sure you've all been given certain exercises for you to deal with your condition, or urgently urge you to talk to your doctor about that. But breathing and meditation, I don't think any doctor is going to say no to that. Pamela says, I think to help with the fear of not getting better or with getting worse is, as you said, with hope or with One for me, finding acceptance. Yep, acceptance is a big one. We talk about it every single week, and you're absolutely right, Pamela, that acceptance is key. We can't move on without it. We need to acknowledge that, our pain exists, our fear exists. Hi there, fear. Hi there, pain. It's here. How are we going to deal with it? That's what you have control over. How can you deal with that fear based on all of the things we've talked about today? Breathing, mindfulness, talking to people, getting it out, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, flush the format. Oh my gosh, I can't talk to it enough. I've mentioned this after the past couple of weeks too. We have these new group rooms in Facebook. You can go under, I don't know, you can make a room yourself of 8 within our group and just say, hey, I need to talk now. Anybody else up for talking if it's not a flush the format? And you can form yourself a group of up to 8 people. You can do that anytime. If you need answers on how to do that, please feel free to private message me. We haven't had, I think a couple of our admins did it once and they liked it, but I don't think I've heard of anybody else in the group doing that as kind of an on the fly meeting. So please know that that's at your disposal as well. Couple more comments and then we're over the hour already, so we're going to close out. Jen Leo says, you have to seek the good things out. If you look for positive all the time, that's a really great way to kind of go down on the downward slide of ending this. Seeking good things out, which is what we do in AOG, of course. Seeking good things out gives us hope, gives us gratitude, gives us, again, that, I can't say it enough, that HOPE that we need in order to want to get up the next day and seek the good things out, seek the beauty in nature, seek good things, good intentions from our friends, good things that we can read in the group, seek wanting to treat ourselves better by eating better, exercising better, breathing, meditation, mindfulness, treating ourselves with more self-love, self-compassion, doing all of the things, the tools that we work on here in AOG, and doing everything that we have that's possible for us. We can make the fear less. We can make the pain a little bit less too, guys. We can. Couple more here. Arlene says, I seek gratitude when I'm having those bad days. I seek any way to distract me from my bad day. I seek sunshine and I listen to music. This is how I get through those days. I also remind myself that I should be grateful that I'm here and that I've been given another chance to be here, to be with those I love. Fantastic. Thank you, Arlene. Oh, great. Seaton's here. Grateful I made it for at least some of tonight's live. Grateful you're here too, Seaton. Thank you. We're just closing up, but we've been talking about fear and dealing with fear and pain, kind of like we've been talking about the past 2 weeks. But today is about why we get fear, how gratitude helps us with our fear, how being hypervigilant can cause more fear. Those are the type of things we've been talking about. You can certainly watch the beginning and up to the end of this episode as soon as we are done, which will be very soon. So a couple more. Jill Cook says, breathing breaks and practicing the pause helps me. Yes, my friend, you are the queen of the breath break, and knowing how important our breaths are, and the practicing of the pause, which is the practicing of the in-breath, the pause, and then the out-breath. That pause in the moment of that in-breath and out-breath is a very sacred time if you take the time to do those very deliberate in and out breaths, which I highly recommend. Seaton says, future tripping causes fear for me. Future tripping. Okay, we just have a couple more minutes, but if you can explain what future tripping means. You may have said it last week. I'm going to go with a couple more comments, and then if you want to just leave it in the comments, we can talk about it after I'm done with the broadcast if I can't get to it, but I want to get to a few more. Gail says, even if you are grateful for something that is not so good, gratitude always works, perhaps even better. Good point, Gail. Great point. We talk about if we're not feeling all that grateful, practicing gratitude instead, saying something you're grateful for, like if your foot hurts, saying, I'm grateful for the use of my foot, which you're probably really not at the moment, but stating those grateful things will eventually help you to be more grateful and then help you to experience less fear and less pain. Becky says a big fear I forgot to mention is the financial repercussions. That is a great one that you're right, we have not talked about tonight. And that's financial is a big one for us with chronic pain. Very valid fear that, you can talk about in those flush the formats and with your friends otherwise, but oftentimes you're embarrassed to talk about financial stuff too. That would be a good point to find maybe that one or two friends that you feel comfortable talking about that with and letting it out. Don't keep it inside. I've seen that paralyze people, the repercussions of the financial toll that this can take on us, and it can take a huge financial toll, I know. So thank you for bringing that up, Becky. Financial concerns also cause anxiety, not able to earn enough due to illness. Absolutely. Falling from Facebook user, not sure what that is. Sarah says, for me, the emotional and mental pain is a much bigger burden as opposed to dealing with the chronic pain. Totally agree. Robin says, I love the worst case method to beat back my anxiety. A lot of times it exposes the irrationality. I'm going to end on that one. I know there's so much more to get to, but we're already at an hour 16. This seems to be our magic number. I'm glad you like the worst case method. I've only recently started that. I started getting caught up in that anxiety too of not wanting to leave the house due to the coronavirus and me being high risk and starting to think about worst case scenarios and things like that. I have gotten out. I mentioned 3 times this week. I was super careful with masks, no hugging or anything like that. And I don't plan on making that my comfort zone where I'm going to start being any more careful. I still plan on being vigilant about that. But I'm good. I'm glad the worst case scenario helps you with that. And I'm going to leave it there. Anybody else with any comments or questions, please feel free to add them into tonight's group thread. Thank you to everybody who is here tonight. We had a really, really great conversation. Hang on, let me get rid of this banner. Put me on there just in case. My name's Lauren Blanchard Zalewski from the group Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain and Gratitude Addicts. If you have any more questions about what our group does, if you're not a member, how to join our group if you're not a member, we do have a YouTube site also, Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, where we have all of these broadcasts, different topic every week. But I thank you all for joining in this week, for mentioning your ways of dealing with fear, which is very difficult to deal with when you live with chronic pain and illness. And if you were stalking with us tonight, rock on to you, rock on to you also, my friends. We love you deeply. Peace and love. Mwah, to all of you who still have yet to tune in and are going to watch us later. Thank you too. We love you all. Have a good night. Bye now. End broadcast. Bye. End broadcast.